kidding about a short break. Welcome back, everyone. Valorant Challengers North America. We got another series already lined up on the day. Shopify Rebellion Black going up against YFP Vans. Both teams, week 3. We've gotten to see a little bit of ups, a little bit of downs, but I'm excited to get into this matchup today.
Definitely, and probably a couple of struggles too going into Shopify Black's games from the first couple of weeks. But we're hoping now that we've gone through a couple of these weeks where you were able to study the tape, where Sean Garris is able to have a good conversation with some players too, some one-on-ones to try to prop him up as well, because there is some good talent in that roster and some great potential going into that one. And if you're able to work out a little bit of that pressure that was on their shoulders from a great start, from being represented by a prestigious organization where you also have Ludwig and Moist taking care of it. Who's coughing? Is
it wasn't me this time. It wasn't
I'm
me.
under my breath coughing. Is that you, Roy? Is it your cat?
It might be. I think he's sleeping and coughing simultaneously.
Get the cat
Watch
alarm.
it just be someone in Discord and they couldn't hear it on broadcast whatsoever. And you just look like a madman.
It doesn't matter. Maybe I'm just hearing voices. I'm getting senile. I'm getting old at this point. But
Vans
no, I still think that they
it.
still have what it takes here to bounce back for Shopify, no matter what. But yeah, it's still going to be a good game. I think YFP in this roster is actually quite good to see the core coming through. From past iteration of other teams building together into this one is quite fun, because we've seen a little bit of them getting a taste of the stage at the VCTs when they played against 2G in the upper, and they looked really damn good playing.
Yeah, looking at this YFP roster, there's so many changes heading into this year of Valorant. YFP, we got to see a lot of these players play together throughout last year, and then that final iteration comes stage 3 with Stellar being introduced. And it's a team too that, Roy, going into this year, that they're one of the more seasoned teams in terms of who's been sticking together. So see them, like, it hasn't been a bad run so far, do not get me wrong, but I'm definitely looking now that we're at week 3, what they'll be able to accomplish.
Yeah, I think this is the type of team where they've had to sort of, you have a former IGL in Physique, Stellar's in IGL. You probably have some sort of assistant or like somebody helping you on the strategic level as well. So there's like a period of time where these players have to get on the same frequency, right? You have Penny, one of the most distinguished players as a duelist in the league. You have Stellar, one of the most distinguished IGLs. You have Physique, former IGL. They need time. And even if I don't agree with all of their compositional choices, I still think that this team is really intelligent, and they're probably one of the most cerebral teams in the league.
I mean, they definitely have the experience there, not just as like a core of a team, but as well the individual players. So first player to be talking about ahead of the series is Thief. Thief, the last 2 weeks, a lot of Vi's gameplay coming out, and has definitely been hopping off on that. Even Vans last week, where it was a little bit more of a rougher showing for the team, Thief was still a bright spot amongst that.
Yeah, I think Thief also has found his footing playing a lot of Sentinel roles going into previous teams into now in his career. But I think overall, Roy brings up a great point of this roster in general, where even if the comp doesn't work out well, you still have some great minds, such as Thief, for example, to find some hero plays they could do on his own, and also narrowing the situation, allowing maybe the in-game calling of Stellar in a 3v3 or something like that to really pop off in those moments. A very good cerebral team that could think on their shoulders, or think on their toes rather, when it comes down to these moments, that they could actually find gaps and openings to take advantage of.
So when we're looking at a series today that I think should be a little closer than the one last week, with Thief already performing well, then excited to see what he's able to accomplish today. And Roy, that's where we have to talk about the other person that was a pretty great spot last week. Have to talk about Penny.
Of course. 100 of those and it'll be $1. But yeah, he's an absolute monster. 1.4 KD, 104 damage per round. I mean, this is exactly what you want from your player. Also, I think the biggest strength for Penny, in my opinion, is not just the raw numbers that he provides your team, but it's really the level that he can successfully get those openers. He's very intelligent in the way he approaches it. He's very experienced in the server. He's played with some of the best IGLs and some of the best players in the region. And I think this player is extremely slept on. And the fact that he's performing to this level should be no surprise to anyone.
It goes back to as well this year of Challengers, like we have so many duelists all the time that are really out there, and like they have these flashy plays. So even sometimes, fan, when someone isn't quite as flashy, even when they're still an impact, sometimes not talked about as much, which is a shame, because Penny needs to be talked about just a little bit more, just a little bit more.
And he'll definitely be talked about a lot more, I think, this season of Challengers, especially when you have somebody like Stellar that's going to be able to find these openings and put him in a good position to get the best value out of it. I think already coming out here with the chamber that you just saw here in the highlight reel, it almost looked like this type of agent was going to be falling off here since he got nerfed to the ground. But Leaf has already been doing it over at G2 on the side of the VCTs. More players are starting to pick that up as well, and more players are starting to see the value of what a chamber could bring on your defensive side as well when you want to be a little bit more aggressive, when you want to support into your duelists. Because again, if you're looking into a meta that has double initiator around a breach and a Tejo, then most likely you'll be running a single duelist. And if you're trying to get spaced in a composition that doesn't allow for you to get early information because of those two initiators, then you need somebody aggressive like Penny to be in those spots, to be able to TP out and
100%.
lock down a section. So I think, again, it looks wacky what they're trying to pull out here for YFP, but it will definitely work out in the long run in their game plan in itself.
Got to see about working out in the short run, though, looking at the series and the opponents on the other side.
what
Shopify,
run?
Rebellion, Black. What?
You said short run, so I was just saying running like Roy.
Dude.
Whoa, what did Roy do? What did Roy do to you, bro?
Yeah, so there's a rumor where Vans quite literally has a stipulation in his contract where he has to disrupt us on the desk so he can do his antics. It's in there. I saw it with my own eyes.
Guys, there is so much to unpack and talk about with this roster right here. Vans, you gotta stop it. You gotta stop. Shopify,
Okay,
Rebellion,
I'll
Black.
shut up. My cat alarm's coming up. Roy, you got the next 2 minutes.
All right, right.
sure you can
Shopify,
handle that?
Rebellion, Black. The team, one of the teams that we talked about the most, this roster coming together. First week, little bit of an upset. Last week, strong. How are we feeling about today?
I mean, everyone should be feeling very well about this roster. There's really not a single weakness that you can just point out on paper. They have players that are very well established in their roles. They're pretty diverse. They're very flexible players. They can run almost any style, and they have a duelist that is super flashy, and he puts up insane numbers consistently. That's Paint, by the way. If you're not familiar, you will be if you don't know him. And he's a monster. He's an absolute beast, and I think this roster is very well rounded, and I'm very excited to see their development as well.
Yeah, Paint, like the players coming across onto this roster, you have a new IGL in BCJ, you have a former IGL that's now being able to do what he wants on the team, and a couple players that maybe just a little bit more unknown that able to really come together. I think this has been really, really cool. And Paint has been someone that might recognize him from, you know, a couple of the games that he's been able to play, or you might just be left in the dark. But if you're not familiar, Vans, you're officially unbanned from talking. Like, you need to get on board. Paint's awesome.
He was about to explode. He needed to yap. So
He
go ahead,
needed
man.
to.
Yeah.
I was
away, my
starting to turn
friends.
blue or something like that, not be able to speak. But for sure, no. I think Paint. I do see the potential that he brings. I think the first time we saw some flashy stuff come out from Paint was like his tech around the Jet 2v1 on that Ascend box. I'm always going to remember that one as well, where he's just going to throw like a cloud burst and work around that and win that 1v2, or just get very flashy around his rifling. That overall, though, is a key component into like the space making that you want to have here in this team. So yes, he's going to be very flashy, but most importantly, he's going to be able to get that space for that team as well. If you're looking at this composition in itself right here on Haven, where he's playing the Neon, he's not going to be able to get like the best type of like entries that you want here for your team, but putting your walls up and actually creating that space for everybody else to create like the Broctagon in the clutches, in those moments, in the delays too. It's going to work out as well in terms of their own game plan. So if you're going to be a scoreboard Steven and you're looking at the Shopify Rebellion roster, then you're always going to think, oh, well, they're not going to perform that well because of, you know, low input numbers on entries that Paint could actually bring here. But give it a little bit of time, and they're definitely going to be a full wrecking crew.
100%. And I'm looking forward to see how much of that wrecking crew that we can see today. And last person to be highlighting, talking about ahead of this series is Paincakes, someone who we've seen in Challengers before, IGLing for a couple of these teams that maybe didn't quite get to have the run that they wanted in the past. But Roy, in my opinion, Paincakes has always been a bright spot for these teams, and now doesn't have to worry about the IGLing, but only his own gameplay. And I think that's been turning out really well for him.
Yeah, I think he's in a very unique position on this roster because BCJ can only control what is in front of him, but now he has a player that is in sort of these isolated. I mean, he's on an island. There's really no other way to put it when you're on the Sentinel role. And you have a player like Paincakes who can kind of control that entire other side of the map. He's very in tune with the macro. He's very in tune strategically with what's going on in the map flow. So you have a player that is not only mechanically very gifted, but you basically have a secondary IGL that is able to control the rounds on an island. That's a blessing for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, and if anything for Paincakes as well, when his era with Fluffy Aimers, I think that's where maybe he caught the attention of Sean Garris, who's probably watch partying a lot of these Challengers games, as to how clutch he was in these high moments for Fluffy Aimers that's able to push them into overtime, for example, on Lotuses, or close out a couple of these maps in these rounds that was much needed for Fluffy Aimers to have, like this title of a dark horse, for example, going into last year's Challengers. So now you have a roster around Shopify Rebellion Black that has two potential clutchers around Brock and also around Paincakes. So your silver lining towards the end with the space that you make in the front from Paint, it's all complete from beginning to the end. Now you just have to make sure that you don't always have to fight with a foot behind, that you don't always have to play into the clutch right now for Paincakes and for Brock.
I mean, for Paincakes too, if you're talking back to why he's being on the squad, Paincakes was like one of the most recommended players. So that's really, really cool to see here. And if we're talking about people that are able to, make things happen for their team, Roy, this is where we're seeing that head-to-head.
Yeah, this is a very interesting head-to-head because, I mean, you look at these stats and you're thinking, okay, this is a duelist head-to-head, but you have a player that's on Sentinel that is putting up the same numbers as one of the people that we would describe as one of the best duelists in the league. So, I mean, that just goes to show the level of skill both of these players have and both of these teams carry. And just the aura that is available in this server is insane.
Did you just say the aura in the server?
Yeah, the aura in the server.
Okay. I'm just making sure. I'm making sure.
Yeah, no, you heard.
okay. I'm keeping it all honest over here. I have to make sure I'm not mistaken in what I'm hearing. But
so much aura.
so much aura. All right. How much aura in comparison to last series? For all the aura?
I think there's a little bit more aura here. At least visibly, like visible aura. In the others, like in the previous matchup, it was like it's hard to gauge. It's kind of invisible aura, but right here, it's absolute aura.
All right, you heard it here first, guys. Roy says this series has the more aura, but all right, let's talk about the series, not about the aura. Talk about the map picks and bans, what we can expect heading into today's series. This one, YFP bans. We're going to split.
Yeah, and that's something that we haven't seen from YFP yet. So picking it this time around for Challengers, it's going to potentially throw their opponents for a loop in the first place. So I'm liking it at least. We talked about Petty earlier on and what the Chamber could potentially bring here on a map like Vine. So I think this is still a viable agent that you could utilize here on Split. But if Penny wants to go for just the natural, hey, I could jet around this map, we've also seen, for example, in the VCTs where you want to try to follow the meta around a tail in a breach, doesn't work out. Let's just go back to the good old Raze and Jet double duelist from MBR and still be able to take some opponents down. So there's a lot of good options coming out of this one here for YFP. And Stellar, I mean, he's going to have to find something that's going to be, I don't think it's going to be an overcooked this time, bro.
Yeah, I completely agree. I really don't think, and I think this map also fits their playstyle, right? Because they can either put Penny on the Chamber or they can lead into the duelist or no Senti. There's a lot of space for them to either run into Vice or run double Initiator. Whatever they really want is up to them. So I definitely agree. I think it's kind of hard to overcook with Harbor on this map. So they should be completely fine.
All right, so I want to then talk about what we're thinking for this series in terms of our predictions, where exactly we were at. This one was also really difficult to be deciding, but ultimately I had to say Shopify Rebellion Black. Vans, you're in the hot seat now this time, though.
Yes. Go ahead, Vans.
Yeah, so I was right on the last prediction. I'll be right on this one. Period.
But I was also right on the last prediction, and now we're on, different sides here. This is
Yeah, so what do you think Shopify is going to win, Sierra? Let's go.
Honestly, looking at this team, going through like my notes, I was so hype about this team. Big Paincakes fan. I think BCJ's calling has been absolutely fantastic so far. And honestly, when it really all comes down to, I will never bet against Broctagon. It's as simple as that,
Yeah, to be honest, I just want Sean to see this prediction and start just talking trash about me because he's probably going to do that in his chat usually. So I just want to rile him up. But at the same time, I do also believe. Yeah, no, but I do also believe here in Stellar all the time. I think he's been a phenomenal IGL that has put a huge number of upsets against teams, and I think he could do it right here against Shopify.
Okay, Roy, what about you? Since we're all explaining the reasoning right now.
Listen, I have SR Black to win this one, but realistically, I completely agree with Vans. I mean, if we kind of go back to the last year, they also had a pretty rough start with their previous roster before they were Dark Zero. They were also in the beginning of the season, they're still trying to figure out the comps. They're still trying to get a grip on the meta. And I think the same thing could be happening here. And I think at any point in time, things will click. And as soon as they do, they're going to see that the gap just is in. They're just above the cut of the rest of the split.
I think regardless for this match, no matter which way we're predicting, I think it should be decently close. Looking back at that, we were wrong about it being close in the last series. But I think for
Shopify
this
had
one,
OT games the last 2 series, so I wouldn't
They
be
do
surprised
love
to get more
those
OTs
OTs.
now.
they do love those OTs. One of which was previously on Split. First map is Agents Are Ready. We can start talking a little bit more about that. Was a lost the last time Shopify Rebellion Black went to Split, but it was really, really close. So, Roy, going into this, YFP, they have the upper hand in terms of the surprise factor, but your opponents are no slouches.
Yeah, I'm really just curious to see okay. I love this. I've been saying that Yoru is a very easy replacement for Raze. I'm not surprised to see the Yoru out. I love the Tejo Breach coming out here by the YFP side. Shopify as well. They're leaning into the Breach with the Fade. So similar idea, and they're both leaning off of the Sentinel role, which I completely agree with. I think it's very difficult to get value from in the current state of the game. And I think overall, both of these teams have a pretty good idea going into this map in terms of compositional choices.
This is going to be so fun to watch YFP on the attack first. There's going to be a lot of disruption around the double initiator, get Penny some space. I've already seen Talon do a lot of this between the double initiator, Yoru to take a lot of mid control and also disrupt the players playing on top vents, which is why this Astra is going to be very, very good to place those stars immediately so that you can get that space.
All right. Well, it's a YFP with this comp that we're about at a Shopify Rebellion Black that has taken it to overtime and Split very, very recently. It's time to get started with map 1 and head back over to the one Canadian and the one American to get started with map number 1. Take it away, guys.
Thank you so much, Sierra. Yeah, we got 2 teams on paper who we feel should be at the top of the standings. Weird slow start. 2 teams who have held on to their roster core for a while, and now we'll get to see how they excel in this new meta with these 2 new agents.
New agents, but also just no. New agents. But my question mark is Vans was talking talked a little bit about it, like the disruption for YFP, as well as like we do see a little bit of stall. There's info on the Fade, but we have a lot of like brawl comps right nowadays where it's like flat, like you just flash them and then you get in, you click some heads. It's a game about clicking heads. We do get a little information from the Fade. So I wonder how that's going to play into the stall potential on the defensive side. That's my question for the old agents, not the new ones. But some of the older, well, I mean, I was going to say Fade is still relatively in that mid ground, but
yeah,
still a little older than something like Tejo in terms of the initiator countdown.
Yeah, both these teams are playing different comps than before. Now with the Yoru leading the charge, using the clone, drop fire. And now that'll make you think twice on really wanting to hose down the entry of this attack of YFP. And Penny really impressed us last season, especially in that neon heavy meta. But expect the unexpected when it comes to YFP, whether it's like their double duelist on Bind with the chamber raise, like they won, but it's close. So we'll see if the cooking happens for YFP. They've planted. Here's Steve keeping them in check.
They have a lot of just surface level control. The retake is set up here. Heaven picked up for SRB, so I feel like there is a lot of potential for this retake out of them. The defuse already started, but the delay is there.
Yeah, at least he dropped his post-plant util early. At least that's the silver lining. Now YFP have to scrap it out. Now that SRB have exposed those positions, YFP will climb the ramp and try to ascend behind SRB potentially and just at a distance. YFP will keep them at arm's length, deny the defuse, and take pistol.
And just me being a little forgetful, the salvos right there, the refreshing ability, so you don't have to it's not a churn and burn. On top of that, they fought right back into it. So YFP playing that really well, actually having those early advantages. Heaven control was pretty solid. I didn't expect the immediate tap on the bomb to then flush yourself out and falter, but it did draw out that early utility. Now for YFP, the misdirection worked. They're going back into slow pace. They obviously also don't want to lose those weapons they have. Info was gained early as well. I mean, that's the thing I was talking about, Fade, right? You get early info, but then where, like, are you going to be able to take much out of it, especially in the current meta?
Yeah, that information from the Fade when you... It's just to at least see where YFP are coming from, because like the desk talked about just how explosive their entries can be with the Breach and the Tejo. Plant was successful without really needing to claim any bodies on the defense as this wrap through ramp. They use the smoke to approach. YFP getting closed in on, but they hold their own with just a better weaponry up close. And SRB, as soon as the smoke dropped, didn't get the heads-up play they were hoping for to catch YFP by surprise. It's YFP with the anti-eco, keeping 4 of the 5 guns.
I mean, exactly what you want to see on attack. Disruption is there. SRB changing up the pacing of it. If they have heaven control, they fight ramp instead of just flooding out of screens and heaven. So change of pace is there, even early on the eco. But at the end of the day, you know, better weaponry still shines, and that's kind of what matters here. The utility was put up as well by Stellar with a stun, and now light shields are going to be bought up for Shopify Rebellion Black.
Where are you?
The last time these two teams faced, I think it was November. It was such a tight match, 2-1 for YFP, and it's a strong start, but losing Penny is so rough. SRB really pressing the issue. They're gonna have to condition YFP to be more careful on that ramp approach, and with all the smokes in their way, YFP's momentum has been really killed, especially missing their prime duelist.
Still have Jakey positioned towards market, right? And now contesting into main space towards B. So they do have a little bit of control, but the double up's just rough. I call it out. Jakey falls immediately. They have to get onto A site. I feel like that's the end. Equalize the numbers. Just easier said than done, though.
Especially with BCJ anchoring here. Stellar will be heard. Thief has to trade on BCJ as soon as he peeks, and BCJ is approaching one problem at a time, and Thief is too scared to take that challenge to try to get the trade at half health. Now Brock's already pinged him, and it's just another day at the office for SRB. What a beautiful defense.
Good reclear into place. The conditioning to prevent them to go down ramps. Now we're going to be seeing guns out of YFP. They have the economy built up. It was a broken buy. This is where I'm going to start getting real excited about how they play. And just looking at the combination of utility, the special delivery as well, again, brings the question up of the fade util. And Brock, right, close to an ultimate of their own in the back pocket, fragging out as well on those retakes could be critical.
Being one away from the Cosmic to buy 2, and is that going to be the call to go B and to use that in the post plant? I haven't seen too much going on. I think maybe besides pistol, but that was kind of very chaotic of a pistol round. But with the smokes in place, YFP are going to have to wait this out. They've used Penny's clone in the past to get through B, but right now it's the press for mid, and the desk talked about that YFP composition really specializing in breaking open mid and taking that mid control once the stars are in place. And so far, the stars are aligning for YFP.
Talking about stars, paint gonna be stolen away by YFP. Now the rest of the team regroups. A call to hit the A site. You still have 3 players on SRB, but the retake potential is not as strong. Full utility, full kits for both initiators if they want to go for it. But you're going to have a hard time pushing in. There's no duelist on the entry.
Just a slow looking defense that is looking like they're saving.
I mean, if they wanted to, like, they should have gone, like, they would have gone by now, right?
Yeah.
So we got 45 seconds to have a podcast, Lemon. But no, it makes sense, right? It's early on in the half. You don't necessarily need to get aggro, especially with the fact that there's 5 players alive. Jakey's close to an ultimate of their own. Penny has theirs. Fix 2 away on top of that. And they don't want to be the solution to the fix, right? Like, nothing like that needs to happen. So for SRB to save here, showing some restraint, and it's because paint went down early. They had paint in this moment. If Spaz gone down, there was room to work their way back in. But you don't have those pieces of the puzzle to allow yourself that entry. And talking about entry, you have to bring up not the dollar store duelist, but a star duelist in Penny, who has the dimensional drift and the capability, along with the rest of the team here, to provide so much value, not only they're in the entry, but in some of the post plans. It's gonna be huge.
I think YFP want to benefit more from that mid control. It's been pretty contested, and they haven't been able to wrap into male or A. So it's a dimensional drift to get info over at A. Is Penny going to want to pop out and catch it? Really good information there. Clear backside screens, cleared heaven. And SRB going to completely disengage out of fear from this Yori.
A's empty. Ooh, some false info off the clone. It was just a touch. But A is clear. They have a player in on the site, down towards elbows, so a way easier fight off for them. And Fix is going to be one away from an ultimate of their own.
It's SRB waiting for these smokes to dissipate. It's been tough for them to have any map control, and it was made even more difficult with the dimensional drift. Now YFP 5 versus 5 on the post plant. Evan, unobscured Thief, ready at the off angle. A fake satchel there from Paint to see who was going to fire at him, what util was going to present themselves so SRB could have any information. And now they're just dry peeking, and that YFP are picking them apart. YFP are even wrapping through ramps. SRB, they sit and they wait. The patience does not pay off.
YFP had the perfect scenario. In every case, they had a solution. Crossfire setup, Fix finding theirs in terms of an ultimate. You even had Jakey wrapping in through vents. And of course, we take a preemptive timeout here for SRB Black. They need some sort of shift in momentum if they want to have a solid round. And this defensive side hasn't been working out. The Broctagon that we were discussing previously, the information gathering, I feel like being a bit preemptive, right? To get that map control in certain areas to, cross, all right, they're not in B main, so let's go into different areas. They're not in this place. That plus probably, not leaving the A site fully off of the Euro utility, the Euro ulti.
YFP added a new coach just recently, Mac. I think there's been a lot of hype around what kind of a difference they can make for this team. But both these teams have been extremely successful in the previous season, and they've held 90% of their core, if not pretty much the same roster, which is the different banner. So I was most looking forward to either this match or the Rankers versus Qbert match from tomorrow. Like
that I'm excited about.
We got so many bangers this week.
Oh yeah, this is true because it's the creme de la creme. Like, this Swiss stage builds it up into that. And you talk about YFP, they have the Infinity Gauntlet of players. And then you have Fix coming in from mixed rosters to kind of be that hand. Ooh. Speaking
out of smoke.
Jakey.
The SRB have been so secure just waiting on the other sides of smoke, so we haven't seen YFP really go for those type of risks. And Jakey lost the duel in B main on that lurk that he's trying to activate. So now I like that Jakey's changing things up, really trying to rattle SRB and condition them to be more scared. But SRB are able to trade that back, and with a mostly share of round, that's take anything you can get.
1 for 1 is solid though.
Pick up the rifle.
Ooh. Very solid for the momentum. Back into our holds, right? From mid. Ramp control. Ensuring that they still have comfortability on SRB on the defensive side. I think also a really important note is that they're playing a bit more reserved for SRB. Even on the eco, they're not being super overzealous off early. That is an interesting cosmic divide.
What a sell. Is anyone biting on this from SRB? You got the fade being pulled, and YFP, they emerge through ramp, get the double kill. Great work out of our IGL of Physic. And then you got Armageddon, but you got 13 seconds. And Eve will get set up. SRB pushing past the smoke. Prowler will grab one on site from YFP. But Physic and Jakey work together to deal with SRB that were a little split up.
Physic's not in your favor as you fall. Physic finds you, and now SRB is down. That was an eco round, so going into this one, they have 3 ultimates and op in hand for Paint. And we even remember, I mean, if you recall the interview, right, an op was truly a crux for some of these teams. So wonder if Paint is going to be able to be that Achilles heel. But again, the YFP execs have just been so strong on the sites. They disrupt players out of positions left, right. And in this meta, it works so well. Like, they're playing into it. Oh, early spam not finding much. Instead of giving away Spaz's position, forces them to fall back. Early mid-control gain yet again for YFP.
This whole Viper delay from Spaz is what allowed SRB to get first blood last round, and well, not directly correlated with this first blood, but still something that SRB for more early picks, early peaks even, to be more confident to take charge of an early round play. Now you got an early Armageddon from Physic too to just take care of vents. You throw the clone in there in case someone was in ropes. As YFP set their sights on Male, watching over that though is Spaz. Not even gonna shy away. Aftershock, not looking at him. Spaz waits, gets damage into the Yoru, and the rolling thunder from BCJ is what saves Spaz in that moment. It's a flawless for SRB.
That, you know, if the rifle doesn't do it, the right clicks can land. And, you know, at the end of the day, it works out perfectly fine. SRB not even needing to expend that many ultimates. And yeah, like I said, Paint truly working out. They didn't clear that angle because the spam, they expected Spaz to have fallen off the angle. Expected Spaz to not be there. And that expectation denied was truly a shock, probably. More than just the stun.
Yeah, SRB are so good at giving the perfect amount of space, not going too far, not getting too close, but just out of range of this YFP initiator util. And we had the desk talked about how good this YFP initiator comp was. Exploding in, SRB are countering it, at least in that last round, pretty well. So we'll see how well this will go. And it's another first blood for SRB with the op in position all the way at the back of A.
Now that they shut down A, they can't even go into mid. B site's gonna be hard to lock in. Trying to push out a B main, you don't know who's gonna be there, who has already rotated, so they have to either fight through the Viper's pit or re-hit back towards A, and the spike is on A, so they're gonna do both.
And they shut down the pit. I was like, no way YFP are going for this.
It's the disruption that the desk was talking about.
Just the
Blast him with
awareness
utility.
to suss out where that Viper was. Physic really impressing us, top fragging and as an IGL. Of course, when you have Stellar in the lineup, that job's a little easier. And now information for YFP, the off is there and the showstoppers all up in your face. And Shaky did not love that. But Paint's up drop, BCJ will be able to safeguard it. Now there's an offensive pit that'll block off back screens. So Heaven has to be an option to explore for SRB.
Look who's Heaven. They already have Tejo set up. I talk about it and it falls. The offensive pit's huge though. SRB have the numbers and it's the same setup we had previously, but this time it's not 5v3, it's 5v2.
Here, Heaven's just blocked off enough by this pit that SRB felt like they had to wrap around through main, and at least clearing ramp was probably important to have any Heaven control. Paranoia is thrown through the pit, and YFP continue to stand. They'll send Stellar on the hunt. And he's a clutch lord. Multi-kills, you can absolutely rely on him to close out the round. I'm glad I didn't curse it. 4K for Stellar and for YFP to go up pretty high now in this first half.
No, it's the United States curse, right? All the Canadians are getting the right stuff, and then I'm over here like, you know, there is a position on, you know, Physic, and then boom, they go down. But it was unexpected, right? Because I expected a 1-for-1. YFP, though, clutching it out was to be expected. The aggressive Viper's pit, the ultimates expended, and the amount of pressure that YFP was able to build on the bottlenecks for the re-entry. SRB had such a hard time re-clearing into any space. Ooh, fast exec to ramp? They're not. They're like,
teleports in?
It's like, oh, you want to condition us here? No, not allowed. We are entering.
Yeah, SRB are less likely to be standing in front of these smokes, and they could have capitalized on that stun on Penny and eventually do get the kill. SRB regain control of Heaven and now re-clear through ramps. Physic will be challenged at that point, but it's an all-out collapse from all angles. As SRB win ramp and they win fights through Heaven, and they've got the spike down and in a horrible spot, and JK's read like a book, and SRB can get back on their feet, taking around here and there, which is pretty important, keeping those 3 guns with the economy.
Yes. Read like a book. Hopped like paint. Who has been doing really well phenomenally. Like, it's just on their own, like, skill. And I got the idea out of it. I always say that and immediately see that, but still gets the kill, secures the frags, and that's what matters here for SRB, who's clawing their way back. They want the 6-6 half. At least something else on it. You see Penny again clearing an empty A site here. I think this time it's not going to be the same as rounds previously. It's going to be a lot harder. Going to leave players on the site for SRB.
I think SRB have an idea that this Yoru may be behind them based on how the flash was thrown. You kind of see Pain just looking around for where this Yoru is. And SRB are all out of sorts, so YFP take advantage of the chaos, pushing into Mail and Penny. The lurk causes an empty site at A, and the immediate teleport for Paincakes to reinforce the right side of the map as Pain is on his way to help.
Wow.
But after not seeing any opponents, Paincakes doesn't commit to the ult teleport. And Pain gets information at ramps and may not be able to escape, but the counter flash forces YFP back. So it's been such a chess match this round.
For YFP, they're really good at getting that disruption, being spread out, and then potentially, right, hitting onto a site. When they went towards ramps, SRB was able to read into that, prevent them from taking ramp control. And now that they kind of, looked around for a little bit, played off of Penny's ult like they did previously, this is the second time I believe we've seen Penny go into the A site with that ultimate, re-clear most of the space, and convert around for YFP. And yes, I am going to give this round to YFP. They have 4 players on the site. The full save out of SRB, looking for any exits. Paint's on low HP. They don't have their initiators. All of it stacked against them. YFP is going to secure a leg up on the half.
Just a brain diff that round, I think, but just the dimensional
100%.
drip opening to SRB not committing the Omen to A, pulling out YFP, recommitting back into A. It's like a macro palooza, and YFP are up now by 4 rounds.
And now, I mean, they already expended a timeout on the half for SRB. The potential for another one is unlikely unless it starts really falling out of their favor. Even then, they're probably confident on the attack side with the fade, which now that I'm thinking about it more critically, potentially will be the solution. Is like, you play, like, fade on attack will be better than fade on defense to some degree.
B garage has been left unsmoked, so Paincakes went for a jump peek and they have spotted something, the paranoia, to create some delay, and YFP salvos out, and oh my god, Paincakes, I thought he was flash, and he still secures 3 and make it 4 to shut down almost single-handedly the offense of YFP.
You can make a whole bakery out of that.
Oh my
Bringing
god,
the pain, like, yeah, definitely bringing the pain in the name. Sprays down to get them the 4K and the 4th round in order. And it seems like now they're starting to trade rounds back and forth and pick up that momentum. But at that point, that round was just a matter of, like, finding really solid timings and flashes.
as soon as he was unflashed, or as soon as he could see, just kills everybody. SRB thought they crossed their T's, dotted their I's. Salvos, they're clearing everything they could, and just the one thing they didn't check.
Here.
The one corner.
Last round of the half, yeah. YFP hope to test the waters of this mid control, but all of this Viper util has been really annoying, but maybe it's just a question of timing. Oh, a lot of gunfire towards that Prowler. SRB knows something's up.
Another A hit. Should be read into. BCJ's here. They haven't heard much from the B side of the map, and this A hit has been consistently, you leave Jakey down towards market, allow them to kind of explore different parts of the map. But this time it's a lot slower, being cognizant of the fact that it was a consistent thing for YFP to leave Jakey there. I like the pacing out of it. It's going to put SRB in a really weird spot on the retake, but they have players. They have utility.
And Jake had already placed stars at top heaven, reading where SRB are coming from, but Penny holds their own in sight now. 30 HP in the third kill while concussed. Penny's just the GOAT, but job's not over yet. 2v2 Spaz playing with his food. Now a shotgun up close and personal, taps the spike, and where Jake is, it's not good for the post plant, and the grab well doesn't pull them off the defuse, and nonetheless, SRB will end the half 5-7.
And it was like just slightly off by one. And there's a lot of potential there for Jakey to clutch it out. But unfortunately, again, the utility, we talked about utility, the utility didn't even go through. And that's going to give them the 5 here. SRB clawing their way back. Now on the attack side. Curious to see how they play this out, leaving their own controller down for the lurk. Setting up for a mid play, it seems. Down on the map. Oh, so Paincakes TP'd in.
Penny's so gross in the best of ways. Like,
oh yeah,
facing all of that danger head on, and to teleport in. Usually a lot of yours are teleporting back after an aggressive peek, and that's an aggressive peek out of physics, benefits them with the first blood. So we try to recover from the decay of the Viper, and they continue to press, and well, they just walk into the YFP trap in mid.
Locked and loaded. YFP pick up 8. It's not over yet, but generally, right, this is kind of what happened with TSM, where they pick up the momentum, they get the 9th. We end up going for 6-9, and then the momentum starts to fall in favor of the team that's picking it up. And this is the same SRB that got upset by Burger Boys. And one of the maps that they lost was OT. They lost on Split. The difference in terms of the strategy, though, is very clear, right? YFP playing into strengths and metas that are forming around the current patch.
Jakey with 3? Are you serious? The playmaker, the king on the chessboard. He's been really good at pushing past smokes and going for these weird times that SRB just don't see coming.
That is a rook if I've ever seen one. Just being a immovable object. Well, I don't know what to analyze. Jakey stood in a smoke and sprayed them down here. Paincakes tried to go for the blind and did hit the blind. They hit the blind and still threw that. The spam was found for YFP.
So just been on the edge of the near site that he could still make connections with their opponents that close, but what a play out of Jake, and YFP keep that 4-round gap. Now safely crossing as SRB get ready to take control of ramp. It will just be Physic with salvos that he could play with if he suspects any danger, but...
Ooh, info gained. And see, that's the thing about Tejo. That's so powerful. Just you literally have info. That's why I was saying Brock being on the fade is such a question mark for me, is that you still get info out of Tejo.
Hey, is Brock in the past on Split when they lost to Burger Boys, he was playing Sky.
Yeah.
I think that it helped them explore into the site a bit better, but SRB are established. Penny's 4 HP and is gonna try to take the decay to get out. And Paincakes just caught the tail end of him. And it's a post plant, 1 man up for SRB. All sites on the back screens. Paranoia on the call. As SRB, they peek, and it's Stellar's Aftershock that gets a kill, so YFP still wait more before flooding in. And there is a beautiful fall line from BCJ, and Stellar still capitalizes, but Spaz is better. It all came down to 1 person left.
Flood retake was there for YFP. They had a setup. At the end of the day, the numbers advantage and the weapons advantage fell slightly in favor of SRB, who now need to carry this momentum, have this be the break-off point into their success. Do you have a timeout in their back pocket and some other tools they can use here? As Vans was saying, you know, Garrus is watching, sweating bullets. So hopefully they can bring it back. But for YFP fans out there, for your favorite players here, this is the time where you see a change of pace. Penny on the Outlaw as well? Oh, I like that attack. I mean, defense side Outlaw for YFP, they can be very proactive about those shots, especially on some of these players like Spaz and Paincakes. Even Brock, right? Like, it's only one player. Pain is literally the only player with full HP.
SRB are having a tough time having control. They got ramps, but they shot down the Tejo drone. And SRB is still committed now. The Viper wall is down. This is the window of opportunity, and Paint waits more so that the boom bot maybe can check ropes for him, or if anyone's close.
Portal closed.
It's like how I say, like, oh, you just need to, you know, you hit one of these two low players and then it doesn't land. Utility to kill Paint. Flash is traded and site's contained, but at the end of the day, Spike isn't down and time is ticking.
This is such a tease. Like, SRB just can't get past this Viper wall. There's a Molly there too. Stellar with flashes, aftershocks, fault lines as soon as SRB even think about going forward. And SRB are too stubborn as Spaz has to get on top of the box to get a nice angle on YFP's backline. And what progress have SRB made? 2 versus 3. Brock be ready to wrap around the back site. A little tricky of a spot, but at least Paincakes cleared sight for him. Penny, odd one there with the Outlaw.
Spike planted.
Just going around corners, pre-aiming, dodges the haunt. They don't know he's here yet. Good surprise, but Brock's swing just barely out of the line of sight of Penny. And Paincakes continues to secure the round for the team, and SRB, a bit of a comeback mounting here.
They are, right? We're starting to see a lot more out of SRB in terms of layering utility and taking it. There's a lot of stall on YFP, because for every utility that disrupts, there's also, like, you stall. So now, a perfect timeout, I was going to say, for YFP to call, because they don't want the momentum to slip away from them. Gives me more time to kind of discuss the fact that we see it's going to be an eco round for them, broken by. They do have some, I guess, money to buy up, like we see Stellar potentially going for a Stinger. On the flip side, the momentum is carrying for SRB. They use it as the momentum break. And they found that they can, you know, wait out a lot of YFP utility and still have the time to plant on the rounds where they are execing as a team, like as a full roster. When they're pushing into an area, they can still work off that. Oh.
Hey, Penny
Highlight
has
reel.
been such a factor, so impactful in these early picks, and that's what you need a Yoru to do. And how the desk had said, you know, this is a interchangeable duelist. And he's teleporting in, like he's almost playing it like a Raze, the way that he's able to take these positions quickly. But YFP now are
Stinger rush?
getting close to losing this lead, just based on the buys that we have.
I mean, this is definitely, they're definitely talking a little bit about this round, mainly about the next one, and setting up some mentals for themselves. Making clearer calls out of physics. Oh, wow.
Spaz.
They made a lot of noise trying to maybe bait out any one of these players.
Do they know Spaz? How do they
Yeah,
know
they had an
Spaz
inkling.
is there? Oh, because Spaz did not reveal his position. He could have called out that they went vents and watch out mid.
I think more than that, they were also just wary of it. Right? You never know.
Meanwhile, SRB have made quick work of getting into B, but it's met by quite some empty challengers from YFP side, who YFP killed 2 on entry, and then SRB flooded in to take care of what was remaining of the defense. And now Physic 1v3.
Possible with a Stinger. Brock is really low. But they're not isolated is the problem. A lot of them are grouped up for crossfires and setups here, so it seems rather difficult I will say I'm liking the way Brock is playing Fade here. Right? I was critical of it, but I have to stand corrected in the fact that they're using that utility early and playing with the rest of the team. So they're getting early info, playing with the team as a whole, allowing themselves to just shoot back and fight against them. So for Shopify Rebellion, Black, in this moment, now they're the ones that are stories being written here. Brock even finding a third as well on that at 1 HP. SRB is mounting a really solid comeback, and more than that, they have ultimates to boot, 2 really solid site taking and spike diffuse denying ultimates there. Got it out of my brain. On top of the fact that they are building up an ultimate economy, we do see the showstopper close to it. Is everything poised for them? How is YFP going to break it? The timeout was meant for this round.
I thought that was super winnable for Physic because he had maybe a 1v1 against Brock, who was 1 HP. Salvos can get kills. You never know. You saw it on Bind before. But ultimately, SRB keep themselves within 1, and it's a flash play from Penny to get first blood for YFP. Now a Prowler has to be used to clear through B, and then you never know if Jay can get an early peek, an early pick. And Penny is out for blood. And SRB at least got mid control from YFP securing the perimeter. Now SRB look down upon the site they want to take, and with Tejo salvos out of the way, that's silver lining for SRB to be able to hold their positions in the post plant longer. If they actually manage to plant, they don't feel secure, and Paint went and by themselves past the smoke, got met in a 1v2, doesn't get anything. Now Penny has to play mind games with the Yoru clone, and Paincakes with the better reads. He got a stun from the Astra, and it's just Paincakes in the 1v2, and it's handled to perfection by YFP.
Just cleaning up some of their retakes. The calls that they're going to be making onto it, leaving Jake to stay down towards main, playing off the stuns. Physic going to pick up the defuse to get Armageddon, putting them at double digits as well. The fact that they're playing for retake rather than being aggro, allowing the Fade utility to go out, and then they just, play off each other, makes sense. Look at that hold out of the smoke. Denies a lot out of them. This is the first defuse of their defensive round. It's the first retake that was mounted with a lot of players, right? Where they had either a player advantage or they had even footing with the other roster.
A lot of ults for SRB. Mid control. It's been relatively easy for them, but now the Viper delays are back in place there from Thief. Annie's one away from the pit, so a pick, first blood from YFP could result in that being pulled out quickly, and the Prowler chomp from someone in heaven. There's no follow-up. There's a fault line. Thief is gonna peek at the worst moments. Satchling through vents, though. Paint had to dodge the Armageddon from Physics, so YFP are really crunching down on them and punished SRB for extending. Meanwhile, the extension, Paincakes is in the defender's spawn. I was so tunneled in mid, I don't even know how he got there. Now you got a Nightfall from the offense that hits most of ramp, half of heaven. Paincakes waits, and at the worst time brings out Util, and YFP, this was the window they could re-clear to retake the site on, and SRB just don't even have the spike down. Do you just pivot to B at this point? 34 seconds, you don't got a lot of time to play with, and no heads on your shoulders to go with either.
Pivot to B when Jakey's there? Not on YFP's watch. Seems at this point, right, YFP have regained their footing. They've gotten better on the retake protocols towards B. Penny picking up the first, Penny getting picked up as well, as we get to see the story unfold here for YFP.
Last player standing.
Jakey has been popping off as well. Just want to give huge props to them. SRB on this time though, on an eco round. Same thing with the Stinger Rush. Paincakes the only one with a buy up here. They're gonna have to play off it. Paincakes is gonna be the casualty. I feel like I can't call anything here.
This whole game has been insane to watch. There's just countermeasures in place from both sides. YFP with the clear number advantage. BCJ rolling thunder with Paint already inserted into sight. At the back, watching over is Penny with no contacts,
Spike planted.
no vision. But on their way is Stellar with full util, and of course Penny with flashes. So
One enemy
a lot of good
remaining.
options, and Thief catches Paint. And Paint's been the one to sometimes overcook, but maybe you had to do something when you knew how much util on the other side was awaiting you. BCJ, fault line, gets picked off by the Outlaw. YFP 1 away from taking game 1.
Now Penny's gonna be 1 away from an ultimate of theirs, but at the end of the day, it doesn't even mean much. They have full weapons. Retakes are solid towards B. The hold on A has been spectacular. SRB on the flip side, now putting their back up against the wall. And at this point, you have to be wondering, right? Is there gonna be a timeout? Is there gonna be at least I can call those, right? Is there gonna be a timeout out of SRB to think something? Haven is next, and we haven't seen YFP play Haven, so it's a little bit of a wild card heading into the next one. And I know I'm talking about the future while timeout's still being here, but at the end of the day, it's gonna be rough for SRB. Other than the fact that they have a weaker economy here and have to be generally flawless if they want to snowball this in their direction. It's the fact that it's 1 away for YFP, 2 crucial ultimates on the defensive side. Thief can contest all of mid with just a Viper Spit if they really want it.
Just a quick note on Blue Otter being up in the series against Burger Boys after their roster change. Looking forward to see how Blue Otter develop in the future, while YFP up to 12 have a full buy going against, well, 2 people from SRB that have light shields, but it's going to really come down to these ults, as BCJ didn't really have the team behind him last round to go for a Rolling Thunder play. We'll see what Spaz can do with the pit. They're already posted up for A. How much do they want to prioritize ramp and heaven control? Because they could just, well, if it's a problem, smoke it off, I guess. They could put that on a t-shirt. SRB, though, have to buy themselves a lot of rounds.
Sending early util into mid to kind of try and draw some stuff out, but it doesn't even matter. Physic is waiting for it, popping it out of the wall to catch players. I love seeing all of the nerdy tech coming out of VCL from Teo. Smiling like a kid in a candy store right now.
Okay, Pit secures mid, limiting the options for SRB going forward. Now with the walls back up, this could allow SRB to cross into ramp or just come in. It's the Rolling Thunder. Penny teleports out. No one's really affected by this. And Physic is just watching all these members come in and off the flash. That is trigger discipline from the defense. And YFP, though, they're only up by 1. Paint was able to find some good equalizers, but he got spammed through the sign, and he's just not here anymore. YFP again with the brain diff. Thief will steal away game 1 from SRB.
Man, I think the Achilles heel has been found for SRB, right? Split has been such a sore point within their run so far. Second time they've fallen on it. And you gotta give it to YFP, right? I know that they have insane players on their roster, but more than that, the way that they're using the strategy, the disruptions that they're running, the fact that they're able to bounce back in tough moments when there is such a loss. It was literally right after a timeout, boom, they managed to pick it up, right? So the momentum swings were rather critical for them. And we talked a little bit on the desk and before that there is a new coach for YFP. I wonder if that has a role to play into it, right? Because we see some of these players playing on more unique roles and more than just unique roles, but we're starting to kind of see the meta develop and how they are playing into that.
Just how well Physic performed while IGLing, having another person to add their ideas in Stellar, who, what an incredible player to sign, by the way. And I was scratching my head at this split pick because YFP had banned this against M80, and then YFP banned their most played best map of Pearl, because maybe they don't believe in that mirror against SRB, but clearly this coach has brought in a lot of ideas of identifying those weaknesses out of SRB and how to develop further. And with these new comps, YFP really did incredibly well. So They are on series point. We got another map coming up. It's Haven, like you said, but let's tune into the desk and we'll
I think bringing back Brock from last season made a lot of sense. He's one of those players that fits the initiator role pretty well. And so when we were looking to build past him, the coaches kind of looked at, who kind of fits the same mold of like, does their job, really good comms, really good shots, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of what we were looking for in the offseason. And so when we found all those players, they meshed really well with the coaches. I've meshed really well with both my coaches. I'd say some of the players have, either worked with some of the coaches or, talked with them before. So we're all pretty friendly people to each other and we're all like, likable. So when we go into this thing, we knew like we were going to be committed from the get-go. Like, unless something seriously goes wrong and some player just stops caring, which I don't really see with this group, we should be fine and we should be just full steam ahead. So I think for us from the get-go, it's always been just improve as this 5, really focus on like this 5 and being like the best 5 you can and go all the way to Ascension. I think the biggest improvement has been on the fundamentals of the game. I think a lot of us came from different teams that kind of were taught different fundamentals. Some not taught at all. It's just how it is. You come straight from ranked, play on a few teams, that's just how it is. So for this team, it's really just about combining all that experience together to kind of get on the same page. And that leads into our struggle. I think that was our struggle in the beginning, is just trying to get on the same page at all times. I think the view that each of us have on the game had been slightly different because we came from so many different teams. So now, we've had a few months to, get on the same page, probably like a month, almost 2 months now. Practice has been going really well. We were consistently beating like all the franchise teams. So I think we're getting back into that, all of us on one aligned goal mentality. I think you can expect a lot of firepower and a lot of like highlight reel plays. I think we're one of those teams that likes to do crazy shit all the time. But we're gonna have some crazy plays this year, especially with some of the coaches on board. They love cooking up these crazy plays. So we got a lot of like star power on this team, and I'm hoping to see a lot of clutches. Don't see us in the clutch, let me tell you. Holy, we got a lot of clutches in the team. Got a lot of like star players, a lot of 3Ks coming your way. So hoping that you'll get to see some of that this season.